Welcome to The Fine Print, the podcast where we explore the law, its impact, and the people who shape it. I'm your host, Rudelle, and on today's episode, I'd like to welcome Advocate Vaibhav Chawla. He's completed his BLLB with Amity Law School. He is currently practicing law in multiple courts in Delhi, including the Honorable Supreme Court. Welcome, Advocate Vaibhav Chawla. To start us off, how did you develop an interest in real estate and matrimonial law?
Hi, thank you for having me over on your podcast. With regards to these two subjects, of course, matrimonial and real estate. Definitely in India, these two disputes you will find in every type of households. So these are disputes that are common to every status and every hemisphere, I would say, of the Indian society. So starting off with the matrimonial law. So matrimonial law is more centric regarding the emotions of two people and regarding how they come into conflict and how they want to redress these conflicts in court. So usually people think that matrimonial conflicts only involve a husband and wife dispute, but that is not the case. We have other matrimonial disputes, which also include guardianship, custody of a child, adoption. These are some other things that also need to be delved into by the family courts. The fact that you get to represent one of the clients to help them either through conciliation or by the mechanism developed by the law to help them, it always helps lawyer to get a good reconciliation between the parties. But of course, we like to help the parties in whatever way or form we can.
That's honestly very inspiring and very deep on how it's not just between a husband and a wife, but in fact, a lot more facets to it. So delving into real estate law, can you walk us through what a typical real estate transaction looks like from a legal standpoint?
Real estate transactions, again, very wide. So a real estate transaction for an individual is different, for a corporate is different, and it's different from the concept of a builder. So let us start off with individuals buying property. So these conflicts might just only involve a dispute between a purchaser and a seller. And sometimes these disputes can also relate to the parties not honoring their obligations. So it is very important at the outset to put down these covenants in the form of an agreement. So all the intentions of the parties need to be put from. So the most important view from the legal point of view is to see what all are the duties of the buyer and what all are the duties of the seller. So that's how we get to know what interests need to be protected and what not to be protected.
That sounds quite complex depending on case to case. So what kind of unique challenges have you encountered in real estate cases that you didn't originally expect when you entered the field?
So sometimes on paper, we think it's a deal that will not require much negotiation or not require much back and forth for finalizing the legal terms. However, with real estate negotiations, it's more to do with how the person selling it gets a negotiating point and how the person coerces each other into entering favorable terms for their side. So that's the particular point wherein finding a perfect balance between the parties is sometimes difficult because everyone wants their part of the end to get easier and the other side getting the hard chunk of the job. So, of course, that is the difficult part between the parties to reconcile their interests so that they get something fruitful out of it. And sometimes what we find difficult is to manage the commercial needs along with the realistic needs that can be fulfilled by both the parties. So that's a specific challenge that we face in real estate projects. And of course, you cannot do anything about dishonest people. Sometimes people as bona fide buyers go into contracts and companies go insolvent and they don't deliver the projects. So these things, then a lot of home buyers are helpless. So you cannot do anything about dishonest people. And it's very unfortunate that the home buyers have to go through a long process to what they had spent their hard chunk of their money, well saved up money on this project. And the person who was developing the project for whatever reason could not deliver it. And since they made a company and a company goes insolvent, you don't know who to target after that. And the money is just been siphoned off or has been taken away to some other corporate entity. So those are the difficult challenges from the perspective of a home buyer in real estate transactions.
Yes, this really highlights how sometimes on paper, the situation appears to be easier than it actually is, and the need for both parties to find the perfect balance which satisfies everyone's interests. So, adding on, what do you think is the biggest misconception clients have about real estate law?
Misconception with lawyers that certain kinds of, they almost feel that certain agreements are just standard agreements and they just need to sign whatever the other party has put terms to. And they actually do not understand the intricacies of the timelines that need to be put in the contract to protect their interest. So the common misconception is that a person goes to buy a, or they are investing in a project, or they are buying a property, they somehow think the standard terms of contract will apply everywhere. But as real estate lawyers that make contracts or have vetted contracts in this, these are very important things and definitely require deep consideration before you enter into them. So that is what some clients feel, because not every layman understands those terms. And what the other party does is that, see, I have sold 100 plots to this person. I'm also giving you the same contract. And that is how they play the law of the masses against the people. And that is how they get the herd to follow the crowd. And this is sometimes difficult. And sometimes when we tell the client that, oh no, we need time to, they say, no, it's only standard. You can get it done in this day. The builder has told me this will work. So sometimes it's very difficult to explain them that it's not this. You need to protect your interest and you need to get this clause added or amended. So these are the misconceptions that clients sometimes have in real estate.
Yeah, I can imagine that they might not be as well understood or well knowledge on these kinds of topics. So shifting focus to matrimonial law, in India, this area can intersect with culture, religion, and society in general. So how have you seen the practice evolve throughout your journey and experience in the field?
We have dedicated, so in terms of mixing up with the different cultures, of course, there are two types of acts that we have in India. So the Hindu Marriage Act defines Hindus, which also include even Sikhs are considered Hindus under the Hindu Marriage Act. So person who is a Hindu will be governed under the Hindu Marriage Act, and their matrimonial rights will be governed by those laws. However, if there is inter-religion marriages, there is another act for it. So that is considered, and they are considered under the separate act. The law for each type of marriage is well confined to that particular type of statute. That is how the Indian legislature has tried to do this. Of course, the legislature is trying to get a uniform civil code, which involves that there will be uniform laws for all types of religions. That is something that the government is looking into and trying to get drafts. But it is a distant dream at the moment, considering the complexities of Indian ecosystem and the population in general.
Yeah. That's a great summary of the Hindu Marriage Act, as well as how the laws are currently confined within those specific statutes. Hopefully, they do evolve into a uniform law for all religions. Well, I can imagine matrimonial disputes to be quite emotionally charged at times. So, how do lawyers manage that emotional intensity with the legal rigor required in court?
The biggest challenge I feel while dealing with matrimonial clients is, of course, since it is a dispute driven by emotions, it is the duty of the lawyer to look at it in an objective manner and to tell the client the legal way out. Because when you are discussing a case with a person who has come up with a dispute, of course, you have to come and talk, console him. And sometimes even clients take you for a discuss certain emotions that they feel what the other side has written in their pleadings. They might feel offended, but you need to explain them to look at it in an objective manner, how the court will interpret these documents, and what is the best way to get an edge over the other side. So you have to make them understand that this is the strategy that we are going towards. This is how we will get into a position where we will be able to get into a better place to negotiate with the other party. Because I feel in all matrimonial disputes, it is inevitable the matter will get settled between the parties at some point. So our goal is to enter into a amicable settlement with the other side and to bring an end to a dispute. If reconciliation is possible, then that. If some other type of arrangement between the husband and wife is possible so that they can move on with their lives. If they don't want to reconcile and stay together, then what remains? You want to lead separate lives while you're still young. You can start another life and start another family. Our goal is to do that, but sometimes all disputes do not have a particular gestation period where they get settled. Some get settled at an initial stage, some at a later stage, and some during after final arguments, after one decree has come, after appellate stage, and sometimes dispute even go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court recognize exercises its power by saying that you have been fighting for 15 years. Now there is irretrievable breakdown of marriage. We are granting divorce. You cannot stay together. Ultimately, the husband and wife, they need to understand that there is one thing fighting for their rights. That's not a bad thing to fight for your rights. And that is what your lawyer is also trying to do. But you need to also weigh in the time, the energy, and the cost for the litigation that is being done, and also the effect of this on your family members. This all these factors need to be weighed in, and then the person should make a decision whether they want to sit across the table with the other side and bring the dispute to an end. The gestation period remains change varies to vary, so it can be initial, in the middle, or at the end. So that happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for breaking down that significant challenge of managing emotions and handling the legalities of a case. Moreover, just looking at things objectively rather than emotionally. Finally, what kind of guidance would you offer to aspiring lawyers wanting to enter these fields?
So, with regard to specific types of fields, I feel I'd encourage all new and all young lawyers, including myself, as I'm also into only my fourth year of practice, that you should never confine yourself to a particular field at the beginning. Because law is a really vast field, and one should see learning the law in books is separate and then practicing it is separate. So one should come and deal with all types of cases. And of course, hard work is the key in all fields of law. So the hard work doesn't change if you take family law or you take real estate law or you take commercial law. Hard work is involved in all three. Then after a while, it is good to select few fields for which you can make your name in, and people from all over the society recognize that in particular fields, this lawyer is good. So this is my general advice. And for real estate and matrimonial, of course, matrimonial laws, you need to be in a mindset to understand your client on an emotional level and to then detach your emotions from that case and apply your legal acumen. And for real estate laws, it requires discipline in your contract writing and negotiating skills. So one should have good temperament while dealing with persons and how to understand the commercial terms under a contract, and also to protect the interest by adding your rights and responsibilities under those contracts. These are for the two fields as you had asked, but I had given also a general outlook to how you can go about from the initial point of view of your careers.
Thank you so much for your time and insights, Advocate Vaibhav Chawla. Yeah. And to all my listeners, court is now adjourned until our next session with the fine print.